please join me in welcoming Mr. Ramanathan to the stage.
Yeah, good morning. And this is the third time in a row, but fortunately I have made up twice to Dhaka. First one I have missed because of the passport issue, and where I didn't renew. So I missed the first signature series of RSG. And like from the series, like it's the third time. I've been here for all the series, like five, except the first one. So with that, this is not going to be a Gyan session or one where it's a research experiment that I have done. You might probably see some logos and triggers in this session. Precautionary note, like you can use your mobile phones to have some search on the logos what I have, and we would relate to those companies, because I had massive about like 20-25 companies for each of this anti-patterns, and it's an extensive research which I'm going to present. So feel free to use mobile phones, and then like it's like we want it to be interactive. So I feel that keeping this to be as a workshop rather than a monotonous session that I'm going to give some gyan to you, right? With that, let me quickly get into the topic. So I'm just like looking at embracing the anti-patterns that we have and how we are leveraging that anti-patterns to be a breakthroughs for certain companies. We have 20 anti-patterns. Let me try to cover something faster so that like we can see all 20, and I'll share this deck, which is nothing confidential or whatever. I'll tend to share the whole deck where you will have notes which will have all the extensive research that I've done. I'll also send the other bibliography that I have, which has other companies as well, right? So with that, quickly get into the note. He has anyway introduced me a lot about what I have done, and I work as a senior Agile coach in AT&T Communication Services, American Telephone and Telegraphy, who invented telephone. So been into this telecommunication sector for the past 2 months, especially prior to that, I'm a thought leader in banking and financial services. And with that, quickly I'm getting into the note. Again, a disclaimer to start with. Whatever that I'm presenting here is nothing or nowhere related to the company that I work with or the data associated with that company. Yeah. This is my usual style. Wherever I start, I'll go with the way how, what would be the good read that you can go and refer, and what helped me in that extensive research. So these are all the set of books which I have at most referred, and it will help you a lot in terms of your preparation if you are looking at some anti-patterns and how to overcome them. With that, yeah, I'll anyway share the deck to you. You will have everything with this. And with the first anti-pattern, right, cargo cult agile, I want more interaction, so you can voice out and say yes, no at least, right? And again, it gives me a trigger or interest to at least talk to you more and give you more examples out of my extensive research. So if you look at the cargo cult agile, all teams tend to mechanically follow agile, saying like, okay, world is following it, let's go and follow in that trap. And people tend to go with that and say meticulously, people are following stand-up, so let me stand up and then like do the daily stand-up meticulously. And also any other ceremonies or events, we tend to fall in that trap. How many of your companies are doing that events because it's been prescribed in Scrum Guide? Almost 100, because we have gone through this research. Someone would be tend to see sitting like this because they might be forced to sit. They might be having their managers or any org designers or org developers who have been there, who have been in higher management team, and they might be they would not need to confess that here, but ideal truth is they would follow that without understanding the purpose of the framework, or I would even challenge openly saying not any framework is 100% as per the guide. Everybody customize that, and we still call that as Scrum. A framework that is customized is not Scrum, it's drum. You cannot call that in the way you want, right? Framework has to be used as it is. Yes or no? Right? In the same way, on the triggers, right? In each side, you will have 3 things. One is your what is the anti-pattern that I'm talking about, which has a name on top, saying which is the first anti-pattern is cargo cult agile. Almost all companies fall into that trap. And you also have a trigger. Trigger means like what triggered that? What triggered that parameter? And then like what is pushing you towards that anti-pattern? And then slowly there is a breakthrough which is going into the positive note. What is being looked at there? And they tend to go with that positive note. If you look at all the triggers, right? Feedback loops breaking down. Like you tend to have feedback loops, but no one opens their mouth on the feedback loops. And or you get feedbacks, enough feedbacks, no actions. And of course, everyone fall into that trap. And moreover, if you look at the other ones, like it's more of customer value mismatch. You work for customer, but the customer doesn't get value out of it, right? And on the other note, you also have team dissatisfaction. Team gets to work with some framework, meticulously follow something. I said they're bored. It's the same retrospective that I'm doing. Oral, what I did, what went well, what didn't go well, what lessons learned. Okay, right, I'm giving you this bullet pointer, I'm going out of that meeting, which is not going to be helpful. On the other note, leadership initiative, right? When all these go wrong, there will be a leader who will take a hat and then come and jump in, and I'll say, I will fix it. I'm the leader to influence and fix it. And there will be a note. But if you look at the companies on the right, they have set something different. Why Spotify model there? Why Spotify model there? They have come up with something that they said like, no, we don't want Scrum Masters. Coaches are there. And we didn't say, we don't want stand-ups or whatever that is there. Let's do something and then innovate a model. And now world started copying, let's invent Spotify model. Let's take the words, squads, tribes, hives, which is very catchy. So they copied it. And look at ING, right? Same, the hive, tribe, and whatever the nomenclatures that they have, people picked it from it, right? And if you look at Google, the most predominant builder, enabler, facilitator ratio. All companies have been having this myth, right? You are a doer or an orchestrator. If you are a doer, you can sustain. If you are an orchestrator, get out. And that's the way how people started laying off in the industry, right? That prevails, right? And any audit companies, I don't want to name them, come in and they say, let me do an audit and find some gaps. And then they say, builder, enabler, facilitator. These many people are not building anything, send them out. So these are all the things which is prevailing in. And Airbnb, a good example, right? They did the breakthrough. What breakthrough do they come up with? They broke this cargo cult agile anti-pattern. They come up with rooms with whatever the host that you can, and they change the complete business model, and they deliver customer value, which doesn't mismatch with other partners who are operating. Take any examples, like you might find Booking.com and other competitors. They are also in the list. So it's more of like they did something different. When I say something different, it's to target customer value mismatch. So they worked on that and tend to work on this cargo cult agile, and which turned to be a breakthrough for these companies. It's not limited to 4 companies. I have given only 4. You might find lists in the extensive notes. I'll share that with you, or you can ping me and I'll be happy to have conversation about more companies, even some companies from Bangladesh where I can hear about the names, right? Let's also think about it, but if you can look at all these companies and where they are from, that would be great. Okay, sorry. Again, what is Scrum-Fall? This is more prevailing anywhere, right? Like say, I hate phased approach. What do you do in Scrum? You sequentially develop, right? You only give anything to testing at the last day of the Scrum, right? Say, I want it at the end of the day. How would they do that, right? And if you look at all this, misalignment between development and delivery. Like someone developing and then like someone deliver. Okay, who develop and who deliver? It's both the whole team, right? The delivery team, right? And there is this misalignment between them. And market pressure from your competitors. Competitor released it. We want to be fast. We want to be fast. Unless I finish it, you have to wait. And then there is a waiting time for it. Feedback delays. Mostly we tend to delay the feedback. How many of you follow 1 month sprint? No? 2 weeks? Why? Faster feedback, right? Okay. And leadership intervention, right? Often you get leadership intervention because in waterfall, when you tend to have that in phased approach, leaders often come and ask you, when are we going to get this? When are we going to get this? And they intervene and then try to get that because your market is pressurizing you to get something out of you. And you also have pilot success stories, right? They have done that. They have piloted it and you didn't do it. Come on, we have to catch up the phase. And those are the triggers that tend to make us how truly agile we can. And if you look at the examples, right, Microsoft, they have never had any suite of products. Did you ever see Microsoft having a product? They own the products. But did you see that they have developed it? Excel, Word, PowerPoint. And even like they take, when 20% of the features give them 80% of the revenue. Yes or no? How many of you use Excel? All features in Excel. Cut, copy, paste is the prevailing feature that we can use anywhere easily from that, right? Most probably the functions and the VLOOKUP. That's something which we can. And more than if we go and ask what is mail merge, data and all that, like, okay, there's a feature which I don't know, but I'm hearing for the first time. So we get that suite of products from Microsoft. And if you look at Amazon, right, how they are getting all the business providers together and then sell their the retail products. If you look at all these triggers, Amazon very well handles that business with taking all these triggers into consideration. And they don't go with that phased approach, saying, We just go with it and then have waterfall planning and release cycles. That's why we give Amazon as an example. Like every 6 seconds they release patch. You keep that as a benchmark, but we never do that. Right? We say deploy it every 6 seconds, but we don't do that. We keep that as a benchmark always, but we never tend to do that because you cannot copy that, right? Because they are not doing waterfall way of planning, right? It is like more of waterfall planning and releasing it ad hoc. How it can happen? So that is one of the major anti-pattern which these guys have come up as in like a stepping stone. They have got a hybrid approach to solve this problem. Now that's why we have got these 4 examples. Target is like, you all know them. It's like a retailer. If you look at most of them, they are all retailers. Etsy is also, I saw Etsy Bangladesh. When I just like want to look at, is it prevailing in Bangladesh? I saw Etsy Bangladesh. I don't know what it is, but it's a retailer. Hope he is there in some of the malls and then try to sell their products here. Right. Let's move on to the third one. WIP limits. Right. I also have my mentor here on the other section, like from Lean Kanban, right? Todd Little. So we have this limiting work in progress. Often we take too much of work because we have asked me to do multitasking. Yes or no? We will say, no, if you are not a multitasker, you are simply wasting our time. So obviously people tend to do multitasking, which makes you to lose and your calm, and then it will lead to some burnout, and it will also kill up and pile up some incomplete task for you because you are taking too much. And that's why I have Tom, whom I have been wearing a t-shirt with Kanban principle. Stop starting, start finishing. Right? So with that, and again, when you look at all this, right, you have burned down, you have decreased morale in the team because of taking too many things in your plate, and you have incomplete work, missed deadlines, quality issues because you have been pressurized. Most of the companies are being taken with time limited work, and work limit in progress is something that they learn through principles, but they don't never follow those principles again. If you look at all this, these interventions and all, the way how these companies take that anti-pattern. Why Toyota there? Because they follow Abba Kaba technique. Let me tell you what is Abba Kaba technique. That's like something which I have named it, right? But they have followed it in a different way. Write ABA, CBA in yours. Like Abba Kaba, ABA, CABA. Right? Just an example. I'm just giving this name through my alphabetical order nomination so that I can give them this name, right? So they call it in a different note, which I don't know, but I have been trying to them. But they manufacture with this plant, right? How many alphabets is like most prevailing in that one? First, A, right? So they have the top-notch car for that week being manufactured in their manufacturing line. B is the second priority. C is the third priority. So you will get the market demand catered, out of which the production line would be filled with the latest market demand. Simple, right? But then they tend to limit their work in progress and also cater the demand. In the same way, you will look at Zalando and or Intel, right? What is Zalando? You have mobile, right? Can you click on Zalando and look at what it is?
Zalando is a
German-based company. Good. Then what do they do?
E-commerce.
E-commerce. Look at this. Like more of e-commerce example. Why? Because they do have high demand, high market demand, and most of them are like. This is one of the German, but if you look at it, most of them are really American, Japanese, or Toyota, or whatever. Call it any even. Like you will have Swedish, Irish, and all those companies here in the list. But do tell me what is happening here when we are being too pressurized. Either you quit at one point in time when you burn out, right? Say, tired of this, let me move out. And would it directly impact to the person's, I would say, loyalty to an extent? If I'm pressurizing you too much, you will think of like, should I need to continue in this company, right? So that kills the morale. And if you look at this is very important in terms like, unless you are not into your limits of work, you will never survive in that company. So this is very important anti-pattern. Try and then try to limit your work and then say no and be assertive to an extent. Let's go to the fourth one. It's not working. Okay, better. It's not working. Okay. Scrum Masters as project managers. Right nowadays, I'm very clear. There is no Scrum Master role at all. It's a hat. Anyone who is there, like they can wear that hat. And they call them as Scrum Master because they felt that that's a useless role. But we still use Scrum, which is a core role that's prevailing in Scrum framework. right? Jokes apart. But when you look at traditional project managers, you say like, Scrum is neither traditional and it's something which is very iterative and incremental in nature. And you adapt a project manager coming in and then like transitioning to the role. Because you are not calling that as a role anymore. It's a hat, right? So majority of the companies have this anti-pattern. Scrum Master as project managers. Now, X or Y as project managers. You can fill any roles. And that's a thumb rule now. And if you look at triggers, team dependencies and all that, right? Look at the dependency, like lack of self-organization. How many of you are really self-organized? No one. Anyone needs a trigger. At home, you need someone to wake up, saying, it's 6 o'clock, wake up. Even your alarm there, like you have snooze, which is an alternate or workaround, right? And team frustration or burnout, right? Burnout and frustration happens when you are operating as a team and it touches your personal ego space. When I am overloading you with work, when I am touching your ego with your designations or role, that's where I'm going to burn you out there. And on the other way around, like it's more of like ineffective retrospectives of ceremony, which is directly linked to your cargo cult agile. And feedback from stakeholders. The art of giving and receiving feedbacks. We also have one more anti-pattern that's related to feedback. So I'll come there. But if you look at art of giving and receiving feedback, we are always good at giving feedbacks, but not receiving feedback. Even if it's nonsense, say that, yes, very good feedback, let me take it. You assimilate that, and if it is really a feedback from 4, which is same, the pattern of feedback is same, then try to take it and assimilate it. You don't not necessarily have to take feedback from it. Take it, but it's like a chicken and ham story. Like you can give me suggestions. It's up to me to take up and implement that, right? On the other note, if you look at the same, right, Bosch and all the other ones, right, they're all American multinationals except Spotify. It's a Swedish company, like multi-streaming accounts. What is more specific about all this? If you look at it, they turned the role. They don't have Scrum Masters, like if I'm not wrong. Like they turned the roles. They have no role stick to it. And they don't say core roles are. They don't prescribe that. They give that leniency. And then they tend to see them as a servant leader, shifting their focus from the actual role and tend to use them as a person who is empowered with work. And their roles are empowered. The empowered word is like, matters a lot. You can change everything, but then you're being at the tail of the organization to change the whole organization, which will not work, right? And empowerment is very much needed there. And that is something which is talking about this in detail. Let's go to the 5th one. Continuous improvement, but no action. We all have retrospectives. Which sprint are you? 25 sprints. We have 25 retrospectives, which we had. Okay, how many actions are there? Yeah, almost 2 actions per sprint. How many are closed? We almost have 50% of them still open. What is that still now? We even have sprint 1 retrospective action which is still open, but which is of no use. But when you look at it, the recurring issues, team frustration, at 25th or 26th sprint, when someone comes and sits there, right, and then ask like, be it Kanban, Scrum or any framework or method that you follow, people will say, 25 sprints I have given something which has never changed or which has neither changed anything. What would it bother if I'm going to give some other feedback on 26? Right? That mindset is like something which is going to say, it's not going to get any impact on your metrics because I'm going to stop giving feedbacks, or like even the way how it worked. And we also have missed opportunities because sometimes I would say, let's not even go on part of it. Let me go and have tea with someone where I can have meaningful conversation. Right? In that pace, it triggers. And if you look at this, your regular ones tend to stagnate, and then like they tend to have mechanisms where they can track action items which they can close it with a fixed date delivery, saying like, hey, this action is supposed to be closed on this date. And there are very good practices where these powerful tools can help you for continuous improvement. It's more of like a way or a process how you can utilize that. And if you look at Adobe, they have almost acquired all the companies there, which is in like Figma or whatever, who is very clear in terms of cloud and whatever the printing or whatever the domain that we call them, right? Document management or content management stuff, right? And if you look at the other ones like Capital One, all the other ones in there, even Shopify is a Canadian retailer. So if you look at those, right, they are tending to change their way how it is. So the path that they can, like, they are more of like, come up here through continuous improvement. How is Tesla being the a leader in today? Politics apart, but how is that someone is holding his neck and it's saying like, okay, I have everywhere my presence. someone who is privately launching up some rockets and giving tough time to top-notch space technology people like NASA or ISRO, whatever, right? So it is something that they are tending to innovate. And I say, I don't want this blue logo, which I don't like. I don't want the chip or whatever that is there. Change it to X. And that's prevailing. And not about hasty decisions, but improvements that they want to see a solid and rapid change there, which is very good example of Tesla, right? Which we are seeing. And if you look at velocity as a performance metric, of course, most of the organization would say that, like, what is your velocity? Velocity is a vanity metric, right? By the way, it's not a metric at all. It's like a, I hope I'm audible to everyone. It's okay. It's audible. You can hear me, right? Like there is no, and I can feel that like the video is very clear with my audio, right? So it would be. And if you look at it, most of the organizations say that like it's an important metric, but it is not. You can fool by just like committing less and doing more. And say 110% is my velocity, yes? Most of them do that till date. And undercommit and deliver, I would say over delivery, okay? But it's the actual delivery that you have done. But it is like you have undercommitted. But if you look at all this, customer dissatisfaction, or be it quality issues or gaming the system through your super smartness, saying like, hey, I commit only less, but I deliver more. Look at this. It's an exceptional performance. You cannot call that as exceptional performance because you are gaming the system. And all this is trying to, even like introduction of new matrices can be a good trigger where you can kill that velocity. And then like look at the other ones. Now the OKRs and other things are really generalizing this, because of which you find Netflix. If you look at Googling Netflix matrices, right? Amazing. Look at the rate, how the customer retention rate that they have, how many active genres they have picked up, and how it is, and how many active subscribers they have. And they have even cut password sharing. So you cannot share passwords or be it like that, and they also track everything even with respect to the geolocality and all that. If you look all this, you will find even they are better than others. Like Apple, elite. They say like you pay whatever it is, but my customers are targeted, and I have their own the version where it is for elite people. And he's very clear about releasing versions, 12, 13, 14, whatever you call, right? And if you look at all this, they focus on the opportunity of shifting conversations where you look at value delivery. Their product delivers value. And if you look at on the other ones, like you obviously see delivery from even Patagonia, right? Like you call them as a retailer, and it's more of like a chain where it is like more of a retail chain there and clothing and apparels. But when you look at them, right, like they care for the world. If you look at their tagline, they're not for business. They say like save Mother Earth, and they care for the world or the earth. So that's their tagline. So look at this, the way how they focus on outcomes and customer value, they are being the toppers. Changing it. So I think it's okay. Excessive focus on tools. Almost every organization fall in this trap. Investing heavily on tools, right? I believe X or Y tool, and they report that it fetches. But at the end of the day, it is more of like what is being the value that each employee delivers to the company, right? And loyalty and other ones is like, you look at the more of the other ones is like on the right, you will have consulting companies who also consult more about it, right? They don't consult about tools, but they consult about the way how we work. That works. Nordstrom is again like the same way. And if you look at Fender, it's like a guitar company, right? Someone who is unique in this example. Robinson is again on supply chain management. They are into logistics. This is the way how we look at difference across the globe with various industries, right? It's not limited only to software development. A lot of people who are into, we are taking up an example from logistics. C.H. Robinson is a logistic chain. They don't rely on tools, but they encourage individuals and interactions rather than process and tools, which is tied directly to our agile value. And their focus is about providing the supporting mechanism and not to lose focus. And all the other ways around, like their decline in team engagement has triggered this. So as and when I see that there is a decline in engagement from team members and interactions is getting reduced, and there is an over-reliance on metrics and ask for reports, that's the case where I tend to focus on this area. And moving on to the next one, right? I'm just like quoted Jira, Trello, I'm not against any company, right? So I'm just like taking that, okay. Let me go on to the previous one. Okay, lack of technical agility, again tech debt being ignored, right? Tech debt is nothing but whatever that we don't know, right? We tend to go and research on certain elements, right? When you look at all this, Monzo is a bank. I guess I saw Monzo Bangladesh. It's a British bank. Again, I saw Monzo Bangladesh isn't there. Like, so it's a credit card or something that they supply here. N26 is also a bank. And if you look at Flickr and X, it's more of like associate platform. One is for photo sharing and the other one is for news sharing. And if you look at this, they have their the whole element of addressing technical debt, which has been leading to their sustainable development. If you look at all of them, they have issues, but still they are sustaining. They have heavy issues, political issues as well, but still they are sustaining. Let's move on to the next one. Product owner as a bottleneck. Right? How many of you are product owners here? Are product managers? Sometimes we blame because we are accountable for value delivery, right? Someone messes up and then like that doesn't go well. It's all because of the product owner. He didn't give me the requirement well, right? It's easy to blame. But if you look at it, the decision lies with product owner because you are owning the 3 V's of product management: vision, value, and validation. Right? We call them as 3 V's of product management. It's an art. And everybody cannot do that. And if you tend to capture those items, on the right, Gojek is again a startup which has been from Indonesia. And if you look at Azos, it's like a fashion, cosmetic retailer. And Figma is also like being acquired by Adobe. Adobe has acquired it. And Canva, it's all again, everybody knows like how I got to design free of cost and take something without paying anything, right? And you all have missed opportunities, team frustration, leadership intervention, sometimes blame game on TOs and all that. That has become a trigger where the responsibilities are being there in a collaborative environment where team has learned from the product owners and it has even given their decision making burden from the Scrum Master, and it's like more of talking about decentralized decision making. Be it state agile or any framework, they say decentralize your decision. Don't keep that centralized. It would delay your way to just reach your market. And in the other way around, we also see that like having always a shared ownership. Don't say that it's all as product owner is accountable. Yes, he's accountable, but we all are equally responsible to develop the product. Right? That makes this anti-pattern prevailing there, but the breakthrough can happen when we tend to ease the burden out. Okay, fear of failure. Again, this is a 10th anti-pattern. We have 10 more anti-patterns, so I will just tell you the triggers and go on from the examples. Right? So if you have this fear of failure and avoiding risk, right? Like when we say that, like, okay, because of all this, like, we have lost the money. A ransom of money, like we will say about a huge ransom of money that we have lost. Like SpaceX, they have tested a lot. They have lost a lot. I've given that as first example. They don't avoid risk, right? They tend to take risk. And Booking.com, today, they are like, you go anywhere in the world, they give you genius levels. And that's the trigger. That they make you genius to be trapped to their business. Right? And Rayan Yar, it's like an Irish yard, but it's a like low cost yard. You have seen that, right? Neobank, how many of you know neobanks? What is a neobank? Just an impromptu, right? Like we can learn from each other, right? Neobanks.
It's a digital bank.
Digital bank, okay. What is the difference between the normal and traditional bank and neobank?
It has a brand, it does not have any branches.
Branches, no physical branch presence. Future is going to be this. Neobank is going to be the future. New bank is one of the new bank, but if you say everything is digital and you don't need a branch, you don't need a physical presence of any banks, but you still hold that bank account, it's neobank. And neobanks are becoming popular these days. Future, all branches will be closed and everything will be neobanks. That's where the presence is going to be, and that's where we are talking about this fear of failure. People are like avoiding those risks. Why should we go into a neobank? It has a lot of imposed risk. What if I give you a loan without knowing your physical presence and you run away? And all this is being a risk, but still there are like they are looking at successful small experiments and turning this to be an art. And it's a culture of experiments where we learn from mistakes. That's very evident in SpaceX. And even in neobanks. Neobanks, you tend to have the KYC and all that you do for your bank, right? So all that is getting eased from full use of technology, even AI. So with that, how can we turn a missed opportunity or a failure and learn from that experiment and get it evolved? is what we talk about in this anti-pattern. Hero culture, right? This is something which we are very much famous, right? One person in your team, like let me just openly ask you one question. Like when you are in a team, you have one hero who does all the work. If you get him out, your team is solved, right? They will say you guys can go home. And that's the dependency that one person has created. We call them as hero. Right? If he is on leave, he will think, this is on leave, everything will be on leave, right? And he will think of that. That hero culture is something that we want to shift because your burnout of hero team members will have a cascading effect on everybody. If the hero is not performing, everybody will be a hero. Yes? And your performance appraisal will also get impacted because of the hero's performance. And that is where this hero culture has taken up, it will trigger news deadlines. If he is not happy, it will also play a leadership advocacy here. Okay? I see a lagging performance in everybody. It cannot be a sudden lack performance in everybody. Right? He has created that dependency. That is where your functional silo of knowledge is being slowly imparted by that hero. So you have to cut off and get the knowledge from the hero and then say, I'm also a second hero. Right? That's the way how it should be. Asana, we're on that slide. So if you look at Asana, Peloton, and Walmart Labs and all that, all are into research and they have slowly evolved with their products. That's the nature which I'm doing. I'm not getting into the detail of each company, but if you look at it, they have just like been into research, learned it. So in research, you cannot fool. It can be a good work. You got to say what you have researched, what you have experimented. Share that knowledge. So that way, we tend to create products, and GitHub is also like a community, right? It evolved as a community. So that's the way how we tend to break this hero culture anti-pattern. Estimation fallacy, right? How many of you go with the estimation? We estimated this, but we haven't. See, it cannot be equals, right? Estimation cannot be equal to actuals. Estimate is an estimate. If I want to travel to Dhaka, I take 1 lakh rupee with me, and I spent around like looking all at this out of eagerness, and it went to 2 lakhs. I cannot go and say, yes, it is paid. And I have, obviously, because of the nature what I am. And if you look at all the companies there, right? They are like, they had a shift towards estimation money as a tool. They don't look at estimation very deeply, and they realize that it's not a hard commitment that I have given. So they have taken that estimation just as a number. So estimation fallacy is like a prevailing method. They will say, you said 8 story points, but you didn't complete. So be it. We are not committing to that, whatever the number that you are giving. We are committing to the goal. If you miss that goal, obvious. Yes, we missed that. We have slipped from that focus. But we will try to catch up. But that's not going to be a sin. But when you look at all this, it's going to have a stakeholder pushback saying, you didn't do that, I hate this. Because it's a delay which you have spoiled. And all the other way around, because of all these triggers, you have to embrace that flexibility with your folks and try to at least adjust on the real progress by looking at your estimation. If it is wrong, try to change that and course correct that and move on. So you cannot say, you estimated weak, and you cannot do that. And it's only 5. So wait, I've given 3 extra. Let me catch up with whatever the other is. So again, fact. It's just a number. That's why you have a big debate saying we don't need story points. Because if we said, okay, we have given points and now it is like nowhere effective, let's say scrap it. So this is the way how, out of my experiment on all this, look at the companies there, like largest streaming company in music, Twilio again a brand, a very big brand, and Stripe again a payment system, which is very, POS system which is very famous, and Neuralink is also a bank. Like, look at all this. They all like tend to take up this estimation policy. They don't commit to estimates. They commit to the goal. And when you tend to commit to goal, you will really make a progress. When you tend to commit to a number, you will never make a progress there. Okay, over planning. Sprint, we call that a sprint cramming. Cramming, you all know that, right? Cramming, word meaning, cramming. And when you look at over planning, we tend to get incomplete work or rushed delivery or whatever because I planned too much. Too much of anything is good for nothing, right? And moreover, when I tend to do that, you are having repeated sprint failures, you will have quality issues because you are over planning. You are not planning something effectively. And all your advocacies and other repeated elements is going to be there where you are unable to balance your ambition with your achievable goals. When you tend to have a balance with your ambition and the goal, then you will properly plan and you will have a thoughtful backlog. And that's why they have written thoughtful backlog refinement, especially involving the product owners and product managers. Because they will tend to hear from them and have realistic planning and understand the actual market rhythm. Right? If you look at all this, intercom is someone who is an AI assisted chat or whatever that you call, right? Interaction of customer service, they do that. And how it is effective? Because they don't plan, they are just like evolving with value added experiments. And look at Eventbrite. Eventbrite is again like known for all your platform of events where you can conduct it. It's an event management company online where you can book and all, do all that. Pacerpay is an Indian company, though they tend to accept only payments, but their unique criteria is like you can pay, disburse, and do all your financial element of a transaction within their platform, within their distributed system, within their network. So that is something which they are very good at, but they are in India only. Zoom, again, American multinational. Now, if you look at it, anywhere you go, either it's Teams or Zoom, right? Because they tend to operate in a way where they have created that for a distributed setup, and especially during COVID, almost everybody have used this, even the government organizations for team breakouts, right? And let's go with stakeholder micromanagement. How many of you have seen micromanagement in your organization till now? I don't, but your boss or the woman would say, you don't micromanage. They would say that, rightly with you, but then they would do that. But I'm knowing you or knowing you. The point is, reason, because they are bothered about your delivery. But when you have this, right, too much of day-to-day tasks being with you, and your team is losing autonomy, then this anti-pattern occurs. You are not being given autonomy. That's why we say self-mastery, autonomy, and purpose is three things that is intrinsically making you motivated. And if it is not being done, then this anti-pattern will obviously be there. Stakeholder can be anyone, not only you. It can be anybody who's been micromanaged. And the other way around, when you look at the low morale and increased errors, you got to see that this is the trigger. So Roman is micromanaging, because of which you are voluntarily and knowingly making errors, right? And again, leadership intervention and retrospective insights will obviously show that, because retrospective you will burn out and say, I don't want someone being at my back always. So you would be keep on saying that in a different note, but you would be decently articulating those things. But there are certain elements, right? Like if you look at Bavarian Motor Works, BMW, Bavarian Motor Works, they have in Bavaria. If you look at it, what is their USP? What is their unique selling parameter? BMW cars. Someone says luxury cars. Luxury cars is not like this. The unique selling parameters like, I have some words. Sports? Okay. What else? Engine sound, okay. Safety first? No. Performance? No. Is it general purpose? No, it's not general purpose. General purpose, there are many cars, but they are known for customization. You want the seat upside down, they will give it. BMW is known for its USP, customization of cars. Get any cars from any of the visionary leaders across the globe who are in like countries top-notch role will have BMW cars, which is luxury, specifically customized and made for X or Y. Right? Even Rolls-Royce is for luxury, but BMW is not for luxury. They are for customization. Right? When you look at this, Zoho, again, why we tend to, they don't micromanage. Zoho is an Indian multinational, by the way. But if you look at it, they don't hire the top-notch techies or whatever. They have from remote villages. Train them, tune them, and then bring them into this position. And now they are equally competent to Google in cloud. And it's like Indian multinational. Here, the recent founder won Padma Shri, the top-notch award for Padma Awards in India. And Square and Uber, most of them, right? They don't micromanage. The drivers are being micromanaged? No. They're paid with commissions. But look at Uber's presence. Nowhere, like even the equal player, local players is like having a tough time to manage these guys because of their way how they have opened their business models, believing the individuals. Time? 10 minutes. Okay, I'll wrap up. So if you look at this, again on Agile as a silver bullet, almost everybody is being hit by this bullet, most of the organizations, because we say that organizations treat Agile as a solution to all their problems. And I say the word, it's like a magical wand. Agile, and it will all get done, right? It's not the way. Even that can even bring problems to it, but it's more of like issues on culture which matters, and also the leadership which needs to understand what it is. And it's not only Agile which can be a magical medicine for all your problems. Right? And if that is like, people will immediately say superficial Agile implementations. They will come up with some external vendor, consultant, and then bring them and then do the change. That will not work. Right? And you will also have miscellaneous leadership expectations at most, and you will also have resistance among individuals because someone is coming in and say, what I'm doing is like that. So if someone says that, right, I immediately say, okay, let me continue that time, but for some time. Till I'm going to be here. And I have to say and then move on. That's the way how we are going to think of. And someone says like, what you are doing is wrong. And the way how those things change is over the course of time. If you look at all these organizations, right, for them it's just a set of practices which they fine-tune, and then like they have got metrics, measures that matters, book and all that. You find them on the right hand side, John Deere or whatever. They tend to manufacture the automobiles. And you look at them, they are all, like even Barclays, they have agility at Barclays initiative. So which has turned at least like, they have addressed all the deeper organizational issues and just had a culture aligned with the Agile values, and they have shown some significant improvement. So that is the reason why we have these companies here. Let's move on to the 16th one. Yeah. Done dilemma, right? And when we say done, when an item is not done, when it meets the acceptance criteria, right? Like we say product owner validated that, and we tend to complete it. So frequent reworks, and if there are frequently gaps being identified in the system, how would you consider that as done? You often get that as triggers. Quality after post delivery or deployment that you do. It's also something that's going to tell you, and even the lack of team confidence when you say it's done. I don't think so. The next day there will be a showstopper which will come back, and I'm waiting for that. There are people like that who would murmur during the deployment that is done, especially it's on overnight deployment, right? And if you look at certain companies here, you cannot have a downtime for them. And that's primarily important, right? The downtime cannot be more for them. And in that way, you will see a lot of companies here, which is for them the downtime cannot be easy. The rollback is also not being easy for them because they have a massive user group in cloud or streaming or your software data or whatever, that's going to get a big hit there. And let's move on to the next one. Multitasking mayhem, right? Like how many times you multitask? Team members have multiple projects, needs often context switching. He's being part of project A, project B, project C, and he has to go and here and there because of the niche skill set. And this happens to make you lose your focus, and especially that will have an impact in your quality. But if you look at the right hand side, you will have a lot of companies who are in very good quality. Right? Slack is again for your quality communication threads, and if you look at Google and Toyota, they are known for quality. Right? How they handle this mayhem? They don't tend to have them shift towards one project to the other. They have the shift towards the focus on how they are going to be in dedicated teams till their presence is needed. So they don't align them to multiple projects at times, but they tend to have dedicated teams and then try to match their need and collaboration to improve the overall productivity of the teams. Let's move on to the next one. And I have only 2 more slides to complete. Let me be very fast in that. Right? Frozen feedback loops. Like when you look at this, there are a lot of disconnects and active feedback, right, from many of them. If you look at all this on the right hand side, they have overcome this frozen feedback loops and made it very effective. Because of this, they are successful in their business model. Zappos is like just a shoe seller online, right? And now you see them like they are handling almost like a big market base, and they are being a bossless organization, right? And we also have Spotify and Amazon, like which is on there in the example. There is a prompt where they tend to understand how they can learn from the quick, fast feedback and then try to effectively implement by being most user-centric organization. Can you go on to the next slide? Agile in name only, most of the organizations are like this. And they change and transform. If you look at Lego, Fidelity, Ericsson, Riot, they are traditional organizations, but they are in this example because they have really transformed and looked at almost American gaming company and then all the other American companies here as well. But if you look at, they have completely turned out their self-reflection, deeper commitment towards their organization from traditional organization mindset. They have adopted Agile values and turned to be a masterpiece in terms of in their way of working, literally not in the namesake only, right? So they have come up with this level, and all these triggers like assessment, audits, and they have been part of all these triggers, and that's the reason where they have given a big breakthrough here. The last anti-pattern, retrospective fatigue. Almost every organization has this. When I say the word retrospective, how many retrospectives? So I am hardly what went well, what did go well, what the lessons are, right? I'm very clear about it. Let me give you the answer. Don't call me and trouble me in this retrospective. So that's the way how we tend to think of. And if you look at all this, they had an opportunity to change the retrospective format. Be it REDTM or all the other companies, right? Liberative structures, all that. They have given you the structure, microstructures to think of, looking up an interesting way to facilitate and get that same question answered in a different way. So that it's a gamified way of getting most future-perspective based and appreciation retros. Like, and that's not only true. Let's also appreciate people for the good work they've done, and then we start using that as a rewarding mechanism or a forum, and then tend to talk about something. It's like a sandwich technique, right? You just give the positive way of feedback, and then they tend to talk about the negatives. Don't let me say nothing worked well in this school. And if you start with that, no one will come for any retrospective, right? In that way, I would see all these companies have been like very engaging with the team, where they tend to have re-engagement with them, and has got this to the level. Yeah. With that, any questions? We have seen 20 anti-patterns, and marvelously we have conducted almost 3 each. Maybe with the duplications and stuff, you would have at least seen 40 companies in the list. I am also having an extensive list. I am also going to write a journal, and when I write the journal, I will share the link. This deck, I will share it with you, where you will have some notes, where you will have what the company has done. Rest all is there in Wikipedia and other sources which is online. With that, I will, in the interest of time, there is a cascading effect from the first session. So, with that, what I will do is like, I will be available online, all the ways in LinkedIn with the same name, Ramanathan Yegyanarayanan. You can connect, and I will also be available for next 2 days. Again, I am traveling back only on 29. So, till the end of the day tomorrow, I will be here with you all. You can post any questions. I am happy to have any coffee conversations or whatever there is. And with that, thanks for the opportunity, third time in the book. Thanks a lot.